Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Father's Day is around the corner and I thought I'd have some amazing men to come and have some conversations around fatherhood. Yeah, so if you are a father, you need to watch this video. If you are a mom, yeah, after watching this video, please send it to Mr. so that he can learn a thing or two. We all are in the business of learning this year, so keep watching. This episode has been shot from Serene Beauty. Serene Beauty is a team of creative hair and makeup stylists ready to make your wedding day beautiful. Apart from ensuring that they enhance your beauty, they have bridal space in 5 apartments to accommodate their bridal teams so that the day is stress-free. Stay here with your bridesmaids, take pictures, have breakfast, and start the day right. You can check out their Instagram page and book your appointment today, or use the number on the screen and get ready to celebrate love just right with Serene Beauty. On the channel with me, I have an amazing gentleman, Pastor Z. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you for inviting me for your conversation on male male involvement in parenting.
Yeah, I think it's really important because the men don't speak. So when you have men coming out,
we actually do speak.
So where do you speak?
About football and politics.
Exactly, yeah. So it's hard to find men to come out and have these really deep conversations.
Often men are afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
All right, so before you introduce yourself, let's have some icebreakers, yeah? What is something that people would be surprised to know about you?
I was thinking about that on the way here, and I think people always get surprised that I speak Luganda. And secondly, I am a trained mechanic.
Yes. So you can like fix the cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So one thing you can't leave the house without.
I can't leave the house without dressing up.
That's too obvious. One thing, that thing.
I can't leave the house without making sure my boys, like we are coming out of a school break, I can't leave the house without making sure they have at least a meal. They have breakfast at least. Sometimes made by myself, but at least it has to be stocked.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to know more about that. Okay, so let us know, who are you? What do you do? What's your, are you married? Family life? What's that?
Tomorrow it's going to be 15 years in marriage.
Nice.
So I will wait for my present before I leave.
Please, we shall give him a present.
And my history has quite a bit. I'm a trained accountant, and after a little bit of a life towards an accounting career, I diverted towards mechanics. Got trained, and then eventually went into theology, ministry.
Yeah.
But for 15 years, I was in active sports. I played volleyball for many years, and I did coach for many years. 15 years total of my sports career. So kind of both an academic, a theologian, and a sportsman. Disappointing that my sports body doesn't show anymore. So. It's a little left over.
Daddy weight?
It is a kind of concessional weight. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us more about your family.
I do have 5 boys. My oldest is almost 15 and my youngest is almost 2. So I have a teenager and a toddler.
Wow. 5 boys?
Yes, 5 boys. Just 5, not too many.
Those are many. I'm imagining you guys.
That's the average in Uganda right now. It used to be 7. Yes, the average is 5. It's coming down to 3, I think, from the previous census, but average is 5.
Oh my God, that's a lot. I have 3 children. I'm just like, I'm confusing names. I'm like, where is everyone? It's a lot, So, okay. We want to.
There is one time we forgot one in the car. So we come home and some of them are asleep, some are awake. We all jump out, and towards everybody getting in bed, we're like, I think there's one missing.
Oh my God.
Was
that the youngest?
The fourth. He was deep asleep in the car.
Oh, guys. Many children, I don't know. It's not my portion, but yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about raising boys. And that's a conversation that is dear to me because I have a son, but I also know there are lots of myths going around about, raising men into boys into men, and I can't wait to hear more about that from you. How has your parenting journey been like, raising children, parenting? Tell us more about that.
It is a journey. It is a journey for, I grew up in a home that had majority boys. We were 13 kids in total, 9 boys and 4 girls. Wow. So, on the contrary, my wife's family, she was born in a family of all girls. So, a mix of male dominance and female dominance on both ends. Then we come together, we were a couple, and then we have to raise boys. And she's grown with girls, I've grown with majority boys. So it's a colorful journey, a colorful journey. The one thing about boys is that I have to, as a parent, train them. Yeah. And that training for boys, it comes very natural for some reason. It's very easy to get boys on a particular drill and into a particular consistency over time. Probably different with girls, but for boys, and the other thing that is a blessing is that it's on a boy. So if you had a girl in between, it would probably change our dynamics, because now the girl changes everything about what happens in the house. The tone, every arrangement. The emotions, what they should watch, what they should eat, and all that. But boys are kind of trainable, and it's very easy to build a certain consistency. Yes. Yeah. At least in my experience.
In your experience. Yeah. Okay. So when I think about having 5 boys, are you guys climbing and falling and doing all these risky things? Because my husband takes my son sometimes for those dates alone, and then they just share with me videos. And I'm like, I'm glad I wasn't there, because how could I have allowed?
I can send you some.
So what is the chaos in there?
They are adventurous. Boys are adventurous. Boys are risk takers. Yeah. Boys are inquisitive. They will unlock anything or try to unlock something just because they're curious. They're like, what is in there? How does this work? How does this thing work? They'll probably put a remote just to find out how this thing works. Yeah. Now, they have destroyed it in the process, but the goal was learning. Yeah. Right now, if you're not going to understand the nature of their curiosity and the quest for them to figure out things, you're going to beat them to death because they broke the remote, or they put the TV apart, they couldn't put it back. But on the other hand, if you understand that that is how their brain is wired, they investigate how things work, and you're thinking, okay, now I need to just stock up some remotes. I need half of them will be gone in a day or two, but eventually these are going to be electronic engineers. Yeah,
that's a good perspective to look at, Okay, so has parenting been hard for you? Walk us through those actual practical details of fatherhood, of being a father. They say, there's that saying of, not all dads are fathers, not all fathers are dads. It confuses me,
It's a different thing. I have a friend who says he has a father and a dad. So I don't know how he switches around the two, but there's one who is his biological father, and then there's the one who raised him. So, so the one who raised him is the dad, and the one who fathered him biologically is the father. Okay. So one was not involved in his upbringing, and the other was. Yeah.
So how do you make sure that you are involved?
So I have to be a father and a dad at the same time. Yeah. In that context, you have to. Parenting is difficult. It's challenging, but also it's rewarding. Because we parents, God giving us life, we get to see the fruit of our labor. And we get to see it grow. So I've been delivered 5 times, and I've seen literally my babies grow to the oldest, who's a teenager right now. So I really see my effort in due process. It is rough and tough for so many reasons and in different seasons. When they're younger, it's a lot of work, but the more they mature and grow, it becomes less work. Now it becomes a lot more time spent together and things that you do together. When they're younger, you're managing everything. You're setting boundaries. You're setting schedules. You're setting a tone. You're giving chores. You're giving responsibilities. You're training them what time to wake up and what time to go to bed and what to watch and what not to watch and where to go, where not to go, things to do, things not to do. But now my teenager, we now have to talk more than we do anything else.
Yeah.
Just now focusing on his mental development, shaping him from a boy to a teenager to a man. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
So how do you balance it? You have ministry, you've talked about all these other things. We have so many fathers who just think being a dad, it's provide, and the mother will discipline, will do all these things. So how are you involved practically in your fathering?
I had the benefit of growing up with men who shaped my life. I've had the privilege of my own father, who one of the things I learned from him was consistency and work.
Yeah.
He failed in some areas, but he taught me how to. We worked together. I think I'm the one boy who worked with him for a good amount of his time until his death. So I learned a lot, and when I got into ministry, I worked with children. So I read a lot about children. I read a lot about parenting. I dealt with difficult kids. I dealt with easy kids. I dealt with a kid who would threaten. So ideally, like working with children at some point, you can use the parent's name to threaten, at least to bring some order. So I something like, I think I'll have to talk to your mom.
Yeah.
And I remember one boy told me, well, I'll talk to my dad about you as well. So I'm thinking, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the exposure to work with children for many years. In a church setting, others are different. And it was an international church at the time. So kids from Australia and Uganda and the US and Britain. But I read a lot of books about children.
Yeah.
And so I did understand, and I was exposed to the theory of parenting. Then came the practice. Then I had my own. And the first one was, and each one is different. The first one, obviously knocks every parent overboard. You just faced with the uniqueness of a child and all the challenges. He was not a good eater, he was high maintenance. My wife had to resign from work and stay home for a season. However, the more we had, the easier. It's interesting how you can actually raise more kids, and it's easier than raising fewer kids.
Please, don't make us fall into this trap. Why do you think that?
So it involved a lot of work. So like I said, there are different phases of growth.
Yeah.
When they're younger, you're basically feeding the babies. They're just feeding and sleeping, and you're walking them. They get to sit, they get now to walk. Then you have to start setting boundaries. Where do they go? Where do they go? We have to put our shelves up. We had to put our books away. We had to baby-proof a lot of things in the house. But we also had to allow him to be a child. So we weren't afraid of having a messed up house, because that is part of their mental development. Their environment, literally, in our minds as adults, we're thinking that's a mess. For them, that's fun. Yeah. So you let them create their own environment for play and for exposure to other things, toys and different things around the house. And then they get into a school, and then now they start a certain pattern of life. Wake up early, have breakfast, dress up, brush your teeth, go to school. So now the pattern now starts. And then that is done into, now they can do it on their own, training them, they do it, and then they can do it on their own. And then eventually you let them make their own decisions. And now you become almost like a coach on the side. Let me see what he decides for my older boy. I observe his decisions, and now I am a coach. I'm not going to be a micromanager. Let him make his decisions, and then I monitor the decisions, approve or disapprove, and then we talk about approval and disapproval, and that gives him confidence, and he develops a relationship of trust, not provoke our children. Now, most of us were provoked. If you're raised by parents in the 80s, you were given either too many limitations and restrictions, or you are kind of just wild.
Yeah.
If you had a parent like mine, extremely strict, extremely strict. There was no discussion. There's no, my opinion didn't really matter. That was just it. He commanded me on what to do,
that was
it.
No question.
Yes, but that is a form of provoking. You're not letting the child or the teenager develop his mental capability to reason, and you're not allowing them to grow in their confidence to express themselves or their ideas, or you're not letting them to be creative on their own.
Yeah.
So most of us were shaped after our parents' interests. Now we have to consider their interests versus ours. And if probably theirs seems to be going another direction, then we can talk about that. But I have to create that trust. So he knows he can talk to me about anything. There are things that I would never ever talk to my dad about.
Yeah.
Recently, Valentine's, my teenager came to me and said, "So Dad, what's Valentine's?" I was like, "Okay, this is what it is." And he said, "Well, there's a girl at school who asked me to be her Valentine."
Nice.
I would never have that conversation with my dad,
yeah.
even at marriage. Like
yeah.
We were told, keep away from girls, that's it. And I had to sit him and say, okay, this is what it means. And you're probably too young to understand that, but this is what she meant, and she probably had a better understanding of it. It's like, oh, that is helpful. So now he is faced with how to relate with the opposite sex.
Yes.
And is not afraid to have any conversation with me on that.
But then how is that, you mentioned that having many children is much easier than having few children.
So now, because I have almost a 2-year-old and a almost 15-year-old, I have every drill in the house. So I have the section of, it's now time to train them to do certain things and let them be messy. I have the mediums, let me call them. Now they're used to certain patterns and they report themselves, like, oh, Dad, I broke this. Or what do you have to do every day you wake up? I have to wake up, make my bed and brush my teeth and put my books in order if it's school time. And yes. Okay. And then I have the older one who has to manage everything on his own. Now, the older one, it is time. We are now time bound. We have to do this in 30 minutes. And so I have
a structure that works.
Yes, from a toddler to a teenager. And the structure keeps going forward. Now, I have been, with my firstborn, I've been through that whole process. So it's very easy to repeat it. Yes, so I have knowledge of everything that has to happen downwards. And I'm now learning upwards. That's how easy it becomes. And then the older ones tend to naturally train the younger ones. Yeah, so the older one will say, hey boys, you know what you're supposed to do today? And they'll be like, okay, let me remind you. So then they
help you.
Assistants to the house.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. But I'm just imagining, you've talked about building that relationship with your son, that he can even come to you and tell you about, anything. Because we know men usually do not fear opening up. So when it comes to boys, how do you nurture that from a young stage so that there is that relationship, especially with the boys? How do you do that?
I do interest myself in what he's interested in. So boys generally get a natural attraction to tech, to complicated stuff. So from the time he was a toddler, I exposed him to gadgets. Controlled, obviously, at the time, an hour a day or something like that. Right now, he knows how to use gadgets more than I do. He has an iPad. An aunt gave him one, so he knows. In fact, he's coaching me on how to, use all the features on my gadgets. Yeah. So we have to take interest in what they're interested in and shape that interest. into being fruitful. Most parents want to shape their children after their own interests.
Yes.
So I am a lawyer, I'm a doctor. This whole family, no negotiation.
Yeah.
All of you have to be doctors, all of you have to be lawyers, all of you have to be plumbers. And I've peers who would say, well, I went to school and I studied what my dad wanted me to do, and then eventually I am doing my own thing. So we have to interest ourselves in their interest and shape it towards a career, towards whatever fruitfulness that may come out.
What values are you instilling in them to help them be the kind of men God desires them to be, you know? Because like I mentioned in the beginning, the world is saying all these things. Men don't cry, men don't do this, men, you know? How are you preparing them to be men, the right kind of men?
It's a mix. It's a jungle. So growing up in the 80s, if you cried, there's a problem. If you didn't cry, there's a problem. If you're disciplined and you cry, and they would ask, so why are you crying? And then if you don't cry, why are you not crying? So it looks like it didn't hurt. Beat you someone so you can't cry. So we have to learn that a man or any other human being has a mind, has emotions, has a spirit, and has a body. So, for example, I had exposure to sports, and one of my engagement with the boys is sports. Whichever sports they're interested in. It looks like for now, all of them like swimming. The older boy enjoys soccer, so he played soccer until one day he was brought home with a concussion. I didn't block him from playing soccer. He was knocked off and had to go to an emergency room, and thankfully it was okay, just a simple concussion. He had to be grounded for 3 months. By policy, if you had a concussion, you have to be. And then he got back in sports, he couldn't wait to get back. If that had happened in my day, my dad would have been like, that is the end. That is dangerous. You're never ever going to play football again. So we have to interest ourselves in what they're interested in. We have to develop their bodies, their minds, and their spirit. And that's the jungle of parenting, that I have to shape them spiritually using scripture, using the Bible, using instructions that we get from God himself. I have to shape their emotions. There's time to cry. I have to literally coach them on, it's okay to cry, but you cannot be crying all the time. And you cannot be crying about everything. Well, you can be upset and you can cry. That's okay. But each time you're upset, you turn towards crying. That's not healthy. So now that's the emotional part. So you've probably heard about emotional wisdom. So we have to train them to be emotional fine, but at the same time, be able to make wise decisions, be able to be reasonable and emotional at the same time. So you can cry, but you can't cry about everything, and you can't be crying each time you're upset, and you can't keep crying. It's okay to cry, but it has to, this time to cry, this time to sober up and get going. Their bodies, sports is one key. So my benefit is I was a coach. So I know so many dynamics of our human body. And so when they get injuries, I know what to do. I know how to give them basic first aid. I know how to treat injuries. I understand a lot of things, and we have to be able to understand these things. Whether just reading them, I had the benefit of real exposure to sports. Others may not have my exposure, but you need to get a book about the anatomy of a human body and be like, okay, these boys are men, they need muscles, they need to be strong mentally, spiritually, and physically. So I run with my 2 boys when they're on school break. I take them swimming. We do drills at home. We can do an obstacle drill. We can roll on the floor. There has to be a way that I develop their bodies to be men. Recently, one of them asked me, so why I'm still jogging? I do 3 days a week, 15 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 15 kilometers a week. They asked me, so why do you keep jogging? I said, look here, I need to keep healthy and strong. And they're like, okay, can we come jogging too? And they're like, yeah, let's go. So they see me doing something and they wonder, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Well, in my day, my dad would be like, that's none of your business. You'll figure that out when you grow up.
Yeah.
We got that a lot. But I have to explain them what it is, and they're like, okay, I want that as I grow up. And I said, well, let's do it. So we do things together.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about in the beginning, what was it? You're involved a bit
You
in the
have to be
kitchen.
involved.
I'm talking about, like, let's say, like, sometimes you cook or something like that.
Yes, so we cook, and they're wondering, you're cooking, and they tell me how I make the best fried eggs. And they're like, okay, let me teach you
Yeah.
how to make good fried eggs as well. And now the two can do certain cooking drills on their own.
Yeah.
They see me doing dishes, they're like, Daddy, I don't like doing dishes. Oh, my hands get messy. It's like, well, but all of us would like to eat on clean plates and cups. And how do they clean them?
Someone has to do
Somebody
it.
has to do
Yeah.
it.
So you're
They're
teaching
like,
them.
okay.
Yeah.
Or can we do dishes together then? It's like, yeah, let's do it. So it's very easy to be an instructor. So there are different ways you can do this. You can instruct. Okay, boys, this is your drill today. Dishes, house, whatever it is that you want to get them done. It's different when they see you do it fast. So we have to be an example.
Yeah.
So you do it fast, and as long as you can do it, keep doing it. And then somebody says, it's not just taught, it is caught. They see it and they want to do it.
Yeah.
So it becomes a pleasure. For us, we're forced to do it. You go do dishes and that's it. Like no discussions about that. So we learned how to do dishes by instruction and commandment, but not by interest and inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one would think, of course, if you have boys in the house, that's for girls. Girls alone should be doing all that.
Yeah.
Are you teaching them those just life skills, to know that it's, yes, there are roles and all those things, but you need to learn how to do something as a man.
Practical skills, yes.
Yeah.
So I had the benefit, again, of growing up in a majority boy family.
Yeah.
So we learned how to clean the floor. We learned how to do construction. We were the staff on our dad's construction projects, So we learned to handle tools. We learned how to, push wheelbarrows with sand and cement and mix the concrete, nail things. Because the girls were actually older, they got married and off they were, so were left behind as boys. So we learned how to cook and do dishes, do laundry and everything in the house. So we learned those things. Now, there are people who may not have the privilege to do that, and then you find yourself parenting. It's never too late to learn.
Yeah. Just start.
Just start.
Just start now.
Just now.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You talked about being a minister. Can you tell us more about that? Because from what people say is that once you're a pastor and all these things, either the devil has an attack for the children or something, but they say pastors' kids tend to just, what's the mystery behind there, and how are you protecting, the children and the value system, the character to groom into responsible boys?
Ministry is, I'm honored to serve.
Yeah.
I'm a pastor. I've been in ministry for several years. I came to the Lord when I was 22, immediately got into ministry in various ways, got into theological training and continued ministry to this day. One of the things I've observed about ministry is that you're dealing with people everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing people and people and people and people. And we tend as pastors or ministers to be drawn to that. We find pleasure in that. We become heroes to those people.
Yeah.
We become coaches and mentors and a spiritual cover to them. Great. Then we forget. Now we forget that we have to do that at home. And we tend to forget that the children need more attention than adults. So I'm dealing with grown-ups as a pastor, right? I'm preaching, I'm teaching, I'm counseling. Those are grown-ups.
Yeah.
They are needing a little bit of a dose of myself. The people who need more of myself are my children.
Yeah.
Now, I will get a lot of praise from the people I minister to, like, oh, I'm this amazing pastor, amazing sermon. My kids won't say that.
Yeah.
So that is not going to feed, it's not going to inspire me to pour into my kids. I'm not naturally inspired to pour into my kids. I have to teach them how to say thank you. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
And if that is what drives me, then I'm going to tend to give more
To
of
those,
attention
yes.
because I'm like, I'm going to get my reward there. And they're going to give me Christmas presents. This is going to be a reward instantly.
Yeah.
My kids are not going to give me a present. I have to teach them how to say thank you. So there's more work. And I don't want more work. Nobody wants a lot of work.
Yeah.
We want to do as minimal as possible and get as much fruit as possible. And we get that in ministry. If we fail to do that, then we are neglecting our kids and they're going to find different ways to grow up or to raise themselves. We may blame the devil. Yes, he attacks, but the older my kids grow, the more I am spending more time with them and less time in ministry. Right now, with a teenager in the house, if he needed me for swimming or for soccer versus somebody needs me for counseling, cancel the counseling session, I'm going to hang out with my boys. The counseling I can do the next day or another time, or at least in my convenience. My boys need me now. And if I don't give them my dose of a father, of a man, of a godly man, then they're going to find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're going to find an alternative, and that is going to be most likely the opposite of what I want. Because they're thinking, ministry is taking away my dad,
Yes.
I hate ministry, or I hate being a pastor, or I hate God eventually. Because God took away my dad from me, or my mom from me, my parents from me.
Yeah.
However, I am now making more time for my sons. On a typical day, if I had an opportunity to do something out there versus my boys, if I had a schedule and like, this is my son's time, and the very same time somebody wants me for something, I am going to tend towards my son. And people are getting upset. I'm like, well, you can get upset, but my boys need me more than you do right now. You are a grown-up. You can find what I'm going to tell you in a book. Or you can have that among your peers. Yes, or someone else. You're going to watch it on YouTube. You're going to find it on this channel, right? My boy is not. He has one father. I cannot father him on YouTube. But if I don't father him practically, he's going to find a father on YouTube. And it's going to be like, yes, the other guy. But the other guy he's just streaming something that's like, that's that time that I wanted, I can get it there. And it's going to be nurtured by social media. Yeah.
That's really.
And that may tend towards something else.
Yeah. And that could also apply to people who are working, because it's still a job. Yeah. And we have lots of men who now are workaholics, and it's work. Don't you see? I have to bring food on the table. And now we have that element missing. Because as much as women are home, let's say the mother is there, I cannot be a dad.
No, you can't be a dad. We all have work, and especially when you become a parent, then you wake up to realize I have to provide for my family and I have to give them a decent life.
Yeah.
We grew up in the 80s with close to quarter decent life. The values that I have today are pretty much the stuff I learned from my dad, being just working with him, working with him. He may not have given us the best that there was, but we learned certain values that you cannot take away.
Yeah.
So we may fail to, so parenting, we set our own targets. I want to make this much money and I want to take my kids to this school and I have to do this kind of a standard of living. Those are amazing things. And if you can do that and be present at the same time, amazing. But if that drives you away, takes you away from home, then you have to regulate that, because we are Christians and the foundation that I build, my kids will build upon.
Yes.
The foundation matters the most for anything, for a house, for a business, and even for life. I want them to be way more successful than I have been, building upon the foundation. So I'm just a foundation builder. They are the builders. All right, so at times we are torn in between. We want to be the pace setters, which is okay, but if that pace setting takes away all your time from your kids and all you want to do is make as much money as possible, they will have the money, but they won't have a foundation.
Yeah.
In Uganda, wealth doesn't make it to the second generation. Yeah, all the billionaires in Uganda fail to pass on that wealth to their children for one reason. They did not spend time with them. They focused on the wealth, and they got it. But the kids tear up that wealth in
no
just
time.
a year or two. Why? Because they thought, I'm working for the kids. Right? Good, but not balancing the time that you invest personally into those children.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true.
And if that tends to be what we do, then we'll have all these amazing things for them, but they'll not value them at all because they wanted us, they didn't care about those things. And besides, they're going to grow up and make whatever they want on their own. So if we fail to provide that level of comfort or luxury, that's fine. But we have built a foundation and God is guiding them, God will do more than we can do.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So what mistakes do you think we are making when it comes to raising boys in particular? Are there some mistakes that, from your experience, from what you've heard, that we are making when it comes to raising boys?
A common mistake is trying to achieve for them at the expense of spending time with them.
Yeah.
So I want this kind of, you heard about the teenager who strangled himself in Seta High, a very wealthy parent, but completely disconnected. And now they were faced with peer pressure, wealthy parent, and his own life. And he could not balance the three, he just took his life. And it's very common these days. In fact, even in advanced countries, teenage suicide is rising because parents go to achieve, they detach. The kid is lost mentally, spiritually, physically. They're trying to hold on to something which is not there, or at least for a season it may hold, and then it evaporates and they crash. We have to be present. We have to be present. So these days, I even have a schedule to take my kids with me to work.
Yes.
Which is not very common in our culture. We're thinking, agenda kora yuchi.
Yeah. You're going to disturb.
Yeah, they're just going to complain. These kids are going to break my stuff. Let them come, break your stuff, feel your environment, see what you do. It probably is going to be their interest. So my second born, he may not be understanding all the dynamics of being a pastor, but he recently told me, you know what, I want to be a pastor like you.
Wow.
Because I have involved them, I take them to, I'm doing weddings, I take them to weddings with me. Now, there's a time I did a wedding with one of them, and they had to edit him out. But that was his world. That was his world. And they have interested themselves in what I do. So when I interest myself in what they do, then they interest themselves in what I do. So why did we have pastor? Or what do pastors do? So we have to spend time with them. We have to not just work to achieve. At one point, we have now to achieve together as a family. So it ceases to be my project, it becomes our project. So if we're doing something, if we're pulling in a truck of sand, it's going to be on the ground and we're going to do it together, ferrying it where it's supposed to be. So it becomes our project. So they take value in what we are doing together, not just what dad is there running around alone. Now they're messy, they're going to slow me down. They are going to scatter more than they can gather. But the goal is to make them part of the family team. So these days when I'm doing something, I do gardening, for example, they're all going to be in the garden with me. They're going to be pulling out weeds or pulling out the real plants. I have to replant, but now we become a team. Yes, a family that works together. It becomes our unity factor, doing things together. Not just me doing the things
alone,
myself.
And fathers play a critical role with direction. And that firmness. There's a way when there's a father figure in the home, like people just...
So it's a crisis all over the country. There are more female teachers than male teachers. Well, research shows that the presence of just one male teacher in a class raises the disciplinary level to almost 100%. Just the presence. He may just sit there and do nothing.
Authority.
Yes. Just knowing there's a man in the room gets the kids straight, almost up to 90% discipline in class. But unfortunately, there are more females in teaching.
Okay. So when you're speaking about still, of course, training the children, emulating you. There's this whole peer pressure going around, social media. How are you training them to stand for what is right, but boundaries as well, talking about sex and all these things? How do you do that as a dad?
I pull his peers to myself. I pull his peers to myself. So I know all his friends. They've gone to school together. And on a Saturday, like last Saturday, I said, well, where are your friends? They're on holiday, right? Well, tell them we're going to be swimming. Call all of them. And he was messaging them that, hey guys, we go swimming, Dad is coming. And the guys were like, well, we don't have any money. And he was telling me, well, they can't come, they don't have any money. And then I said, I'll pay for them.
Yeah. They
rode bicycles to the place in like 15 minutes. So I get to absorb his peers. So I know the influence, I know the boys. I eventually get to know their parents. I get to know where they live. So I get to know his circle.
So that's intentionality.
Yes. So where are you going? Oh, there's Josh. Well, I know where Josh lives. I know his parents.
Yeah.
Tell Josh's mom to call me.
Yes.
And we make a plan for Saturday. Yeah. If I neglect that, that is going to be his alternative company, which becomes the real company. Yeah. It's like, oh, that boring. I have my clique, and that becomes my company. And if it's negative, it comes into a mini gang. Yeah. So I have to absorb his peers and shape them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to social media, how are you managing that?
Social media involvement is regulated. All his social media is on my phone or on my devices. So he doesn't have any independent social media on his own until we will rate his mental capacity to handle the content. Yeah. So he does everything on my phone right now. So I know what he's doing. I know he's communicating too. I know the content likes. And when he's doing it on my phone, then he knows there are certain things that he cannot do because he's a Christian. And if I see he's doing something that is completely getting out of order, then we have to talk about it in line of scripture. Not just me, not just... Most of us grow up and it's like Dad said. Yeah. Well, me, it's what God says, what scripture says. So it's more than... Even in my absence, they'll be like, it's not just Dad, it is God, it's scripture.
Yeah, and when you talk about that, God and scripture, and you find that in church there are more women than men. Overnight, more women. Yeah. So how are you training and teaching the kids to have their own personal relationship with God and teach them to be actually godly men and practically, be men who desire the things of God? How do you do that when it comes to boys?
We do the ministry together. So we will go to church, and for example, they'll attend one service, and the other service I'm telling them, can you go please help this? And can you come and do dishes with this team? And they'll do that. Come and help, like the gadget guy, come and learn a few things from the media guys. And so I will distribute them. So I'm preaching, I'm doing my pastoral work. One of them is doing dishes, one of them is babysitting. There's one particular one that likes babies. The other is doing dishes with the hospitality team. So again, it becomes something that we do together. Not just something that Dad does, but something that we do. That is our life together. So I have to involve them in most of what I do in ministry. Yeah. Yes. I even ask them, hey, anybody wants to do announcements? Like, no. But at one point, I'm going to be like, come and do announcements. Come and do something so that I interest them in what, that's not probably what they'll do eventually, but they will have known what I did, and I also interested myself in what they did. So it's mutual. When it's my turn to get them do what I want, they're like, oh, fine, Dad does what we want, takes us out for soccer or swim, whatever. Well, it's only fair that he takes us to what he does. So let's go do that. Yeah.
There's this thing that we keep throwing around, which of course, the man is a priest at home. The man is a priest, and so many ladies are complaining that
the priests are not there.
Devotions are priests at work. They are not in the homes, How is your experience like in creating that atmosphere in the home as well?
Again, I've had the privilege of being in ministry when I was young, in my young adult age, and into my life now. So I have exposure to the Bible, to Bible knowledge, to Bible history, to a lot of Bible stuff, theology stuff. So I have had the benefit of that. It comes very natural to me to do that in the house because I have the knowledge, and that's pretty much what I do. It's going to be a lot more work for somebody who does not have the exposure that I have. It's going to be a lot more effort for someone to train themselves as a priest. The challenge with this parenting journey is that at the moment you become a father, you have automatically been ordained a priest with no priestly training.
Yes.
I became a priest with priestly training. Yeah, so now you have to seek out, and this is one thing that men don't like doing, to admit that, you know what, I do not know how to be a priest. I do not know how to be a husband. I do not know how to be a parent. I do not know how to change diapers. I do not know how to sit with my own child and talk. I just don't know. Well, that's a good place to be. Then seek to learn. Get a book. Start with a storybook. Start reading it to them. Get a devotional. We have tons of devotionals even online, even on video, even on content, on YouTube. Find your source. Just look for family inspirations or family devotionals. Listen, watch, take it home. That's pretty much what I did in ministry when I was starting out. If I had an opportunity to teach, I'm like, now how do I start? Well, I looked for a preacher, listened to the message. I'm like, okay, made some notes, and then what happened? That's what I taught. Probably better or worse. But that I had to start somewhere. So you get a devotional book. There's so many. There are inspirations, daily bread and daily scriptures, family devotionals. I just get that and distribute it in the family, or start with yourself as a priest, consume it, and then feed others. Just get it from a book, get it from a Bible, get it from a YouTube channel, get it from, whatever. Artificial intelligence.
But I like what you said, because the truth is we don't want to admit that we do not know.
We have to first admit that I have no clue.
Exactly.
And that should now inspire you to
seek out.
To look for the clues.
Because you find
because we are searchers, we are researchers. But when it comes to the Word of God, then it's spiritual. Then it becomes a lot of work. A man can do any research on anything in this country and become a PhD, but tell him, would you please sit down with your children and tell them about that? They won't be able to.
And that's, we need to bridge that gap
So
a lot.
They need to learn. And learning is very easy as long as you interest your mind.
Because
and you start.
People start businesses, they learn about business, they put in the effort. But then with parenting and marriage, people think it's a waterfall. It will just
it's going to just work out on its own.
It will just work out. Oh my
We're just
God.
going to pray at first.
No. You have to put in the work. Okay. So when you speak about learning, from my experience, I know that men listen to men. It's been very evident in my marriage, and men listen to men. So there is a whole bit of community needed, especially when it comes to being a dad and being a parent. So how do you nurture that mentorship with the boys? Do they have people they look towards, or you as a father, do you have people who are holding you and walking that journey with you so that you can share and panel beat?
Yes. So it's interesting how men are that way. However, if men interest themselves towards anything, it becomes now something that brings them together. For example, football. Take, for example, football. They've never played football. All they've done is watch it on TV. They have a team they fancy, and they hide it from so and so. They'll automatically become a fan to a certain football club. And that they'll commit to watch almost each time there's a game. If we interest ourselves in parenting, now that's just football. If we interest ourselves in parenting and into manhood, then that brings us together. So again, I've had the privilege of growing up under pastors who raised me as a man and taught me, and I observed, learned from them. And being a pastor, then I have to bring together men to do things together. It's interesting how men are very geared towards getting something done. However, you have to almost sometimes trick them into getting it done. So we're thinking, we want to involve our kids to a certain thing, or let's say a certain sport. If you say that to them, they're going to be like, no, I'm busy. But you tell them, pick up what interests them. But we're actually going to watch a game. They're like, yeah, we're coming. And maybe we'll watch the game together, or part of the game, and then get whatever needs to be done. So we'll say, well, we have a barbecue, men's barbecue. They'll come for the barbecue.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be, that's going to be the attraction. They want to eat, and then after they eat, then we get to talk.
Yeah.
So one of my passions is to develop healthy families, and particularly godly men. So if we say we have men's fellowship, you'll find 5 men there.
Yeah.
But if you say the men are going to do something fun, they're going to come. And then you'll have men's fellowship, right?
Yeah.
So almost, we are very direct, but again, sometimes we have to be tricked into doing something very tactfully. So we're developing things like Fellowship of Fathers, or excuse me, Fathers in Prayer, things that men are attracted to, but we're not branding it as
Directly.
Fellowship for Fathers, or it's going to be men's fellowship.
Yeah.
It's going to be, we're going to brand into something like men's breakfast, for example, or men's dinner, or men's barbecue,
There they will
or
come.
men's fun day out, or
Yeah.
men in the jungle. We go to Wusika and all the do some outdoor stuff, or men on the road, riding bicycles, things like that. We do something that attracts them, and then while there, we get to talk about things that we have to do as men.
But man, you make things complicated.
We are very simple.
You're complicated. But there is a saying that maybe something I made up, but the best gift you can give your children is a great relationship with your wife. What do you have to say about that, and how are you navigating marriage together and parenting together? Yeah, for the betterment of your children.
They have to see that love is not theory. Love is work.
Yeah.
So they see me, so the things that I do at home for my wife, or at least for my family, but particularly for my wife, I do all her laundry. Yep, I do all her laundry, and they see it.
How?
I every 2 days, Monday and Saturday, I make her breakfast, and they know it. So just a weekend ago, one of them, my wife sleeps in Saturday morning. So my son walks in the bedroom. I was in the kitchen, and let me go greet mom. And my wife told him, could you please ask dad if my breakfast is ready? So he ran to me and said, well, and he does not know the breakfast, but he figures out, dad, mom is asking if her eggs is a particular way she loves them. Eggs and salads are ready, and if they're ready, could you please make them? They see me making breakfast for my wife every 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Monday they know that's a drill, and Saturday they see me talk to my wife, have conversations, laugh, play, and do things together. That one they have to see, because my relationship with my wife as husband and wife, it probably tend towards just talk and messaging and planning and doing grown-up things together, like dating or things like that. But they see me carry their mom, they see me hold her hands, they see me fix stuff for her, they see me cook for her, they see me do laundry for her, and that is what they are literally absorbing. They see how I love their mom, and they know. So, for example, a bulb doesn't work. They're like, Dad, I think this is your field right here, and they see me do that. They see me do the men things, and they see me do husband things to my wife, who's their mom.
Yeah, and when children are brought up in that stability.
Or they see me buy gifts. I bring gifts home. Tomorrow is an anniversary. Last week was a birthday. I brought a big box, and they know that is for mom. They just like, is that mom's? They're like, yes, it's for mom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So when they see healthy parents, most likely they will also have healthy relationships, because we always tend to copy what's familiar when we grow up. So because daddy did that, I think that's the right thing to do. So where do we start booking So sons.
The challenge is
because I'm sure that one maybe they'll be good for our daughters.
let's do that. The challenge is that for the most part we didn't get that.
Yeah.
So we are clueless.
Yes.
And that is the one excuse men use. Like
I
you
didn't
it
know.
again. You know, surprise. How do I do a surprise? Why we call it here?
Yeah.
Learn. Right? We did never. My parents. My dad worked, provided. He had a seat like this. That's where he was. If he wasn't at work, he was at home, and everything found him there. Now, growing up, seeing my dad had such a life, I'm thinking, when I grow up,
I want to be.
I want to be
boss.
just like that. I just want to come home, sit, my
Put
food
your
finds me
legs up.
there, the kids' reports are fine, they're nicely arranged. Whatever has to be done on my table finds me there, and I'm like, yeah, that's a life.
Yeah.
Well, I marry and I have children, and I'm thinking, that's not real.
Yeah.
I can't just sit there. So then I have to learn. I have to read books. I've had to read a lot of books.
Yeah.
I've had to read parenting books, marriage books, husbanding books, family books.
Yeah.
And I learned, all right, I just can't. That was my dad. Now this is me. And this is what I find in scripture. A man is not just sitting there, just being bossy. A man is a servant. A man is a leader. A man is gentle and firm at the same time. And all the discoveries being made about manhood, then I want that for myself. I never saw my dad buy my mom a gift.
Yeah.
They probably held hands back in their dating days. I don't know. We'll have to investigate that.
I know.
Publicly, they look like strangers. Right?
Yeah.
The men sat somewhere and the women sat somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have to undo all that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's key.
And I can't have the excuse, oh, well, I didn't get that. Well, you didn't get that, but now you have the privilege to model it.
Exactly, because there's a lot of information out there, and we have to learn. I think that's the biggest thing. We all don't know, but just seek out learning and try and do better.
True.
Yeah, so what advice would you give a father out there, on this journey of parenting? And then maybe also, there may be some advice he can take to his boys,
Fathers, when children are younger, you probably can excuse your absence. When they are under 10, maybe you're thinking you can excuse your absence. The moment they cross 10, then you have to increase in their lives, in their home, in their interests, and pull them alongside you and bring them up alongside who you are and what you do and everything around life. Yes. After 10, if you don't shape them between 10 and 18, that's a very small gap of 8 years. That's pretty much towards the end of their primary school and towards the end of their secondary school. The moment, I only have 5 years with my teenager who's almost 15. Just a few more years. And if we don't bond between now and the time is out of high school, it's going into who knows where, Malaysia, China, the US. And if we don't have that bond now, it will never be.
Yeah.
He's going to have a bond with his school peers, and that's going to be his gang for the rest of his life. So I have to make sure between 10 and 18, that is very instrumental. You can be absent until they're 10. Once they're 10, they start reasoning differently. And now you have to make the friendship. And now they're open. When they're 18, they're closed. So you'd rather be absent when they're younger than when they're older, right?
Then
so
if
you want to be absent
okay.
up until they're 10, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the cutoff point. And between 10 and 18, now they need a man or a woman to hold on to, even for girls.
Yeah.
And if they don't make that connection
yeah.
and bond, then they're going to find it among their friends and their peers. And if it's the wrong group, that is going to be literally a life commitment to them. Mom or dad is just going to be, oh yeah, did you talk to that? Yeah, I talked to him, he's okay, kind of thing. Rather than, dad, where are you, right? I tell my boy, if you ever find yourself in any trouble, the first person you should call is me.
Yeah.
Right? I would never do that to my dad. Now he gets himself in trouble, and guess who he calls? Like, dude, I just broke something. It's like, fine, I'll be there in a little bit, and we go fix the problem.
Yeah.
So between 10 and 18 is when you have to be present and make the bond, and that bond will be for a lifetime. If you don't build it there, he's going to go into secondary school, make his own peers, friendships, and that becomes his lifetime commitment. And is going to go into his career, and your fathering or parenting is just going to be kind of a by the way. Like, yeah, he's out there. Where's your dad? Is there. You can tell if you ask a teenager, how's your dad? Is like, the way he answers will show you whether he is present or completely absent or a complete stranger or I don't care about my dad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else.
Okay, so you've talked about that time, like being present and building that bond. Anything else you think a father should know?
The instruction of scripture says we need to train them. So Proverbs 22:6, train a child the way they should go. It is one word, train. Train them. Yeah.
Amazing.
Train them to clean, train them to do dishes, train them to laugh, train them to be disciplined, train them to be physically strong, emotionally reasonable, spiritually strong in the word. It is one word, it's training. There's lots of training that we even get as adults. There's this workshop on this, on emotional wisdom. There's this workshop on AI, and we go all to the trainings. My age, we will do so many trainings. There's this training on whatever it is.
Yeah.
We go for those trainings. What we need to do is take that home. I'm going to train my boys on this. I'm going to train them on this matter. I'm going to train them how to change the bulb. I'm going to train them how to do basic electricals. I'm going to train them how to troubleshoot certain things. I'm going to train them how to make a simple piece of furniture out of wood and using simple tools. I'm going to train them how to analyze a matter, how to reason out something. Yeah, I'm going to train them how to argue their point. Yes. I'm going to train them on their oral skills. We have like presentations at home. Like, okay, we're going to present on something, and we give them some training, and every boy gives
their points.
Yes, gives the point. So what is your point? So that is training.
Yeah. That's amazing. Guys, we've had Pastor Zeddie Muzungu here. You didn't say your name. Please. As we conclude, please.
Pastor Zeddie Muzungu at Calvary Chapel, Kampala. We invite you to a church if you'd like, looking for a church to call home. We invite you to come fellowship with us for a season, maybe learn a few things from our men's ministry or our mentorship programs, and take it with you. Amazing.
Thank you so much for watching. My name is Lisa Kusima, and I'm always here to inspire you to do better in your families. If you found value in the video, please give us a thumbs up. Share this video with a father out there and someone you think will benefit. Let us know in the comment section, what has been your key take home? How are you raising your boys in your families? See you in the next one.